If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Coach Jeff Bell, the head baseball coach of the Silicaca Aggies, joins us this morning, and the final show of the baseball season. Largest crowd I've ever seen at a high school baseball game for sure, and parking was at a premium, seating and standing was at a premium. Everything was on the line for Silicaca to head to the finals this week in Montgomery, and Jeff, doubleheader lost to a solid Briarwood baseball team.
Yeah, they were good. The scouting report that we had on them was exactly what we got. I mean, they don't give you anything. They're going to play good defense. They're always going to have really good pitching, and they got timely hits when they needed them, and that was really the difference in the whole series. I thought was timely hitting, which we'd done all season. So that's the way the game is. We got them the week before, and we didn't get them this past weekend. So that's baseball. We'll go back to the drawing board, I guess.
Yeah, the big hit never came. Mm-hmm. And it has been there for you, especially the last half of the season.
It has. The pitching staff did a good job of keeping us in games, and then somebody, and it seemed like it was somebody different every day. Somebody in the lineup got the big hit when we needed it. That was one of the things that I, as I look back, will enjoy the most about it is that there was a different hero every day. It wasn't always the same guy that we were leaning on. It was somebody's turn, whatever day it was.
6-0 loss, Briarwood the first game, and it was close through the first couple of 3 innings and opening up a little bit, and then the nightcap. The crowd senses that, hey, we're a hit away, or a stolen base away, or home run away from getting things back under control. You had an opportunity in that second game especially.
Yeah, we did. And to backtrack a little bit, exactly what I told the team between games. I mentioned the crowd, and you could tell they were on the edge of their seat. I said, these people are dying to cheer for you. You've just got to give them something to cheer about. And then, a lot of times it happens. There's something during the game that sort of sparks it. And Brady Davis made a really good play in the outfield and threw a runner out at the plate. And there was the crowd again. And our guys do a good job of sort of feeding off of that energy. And then we came in and we scored that next half inning, and I thought, there it was. But as Briarwood's pretty good at, they're good at putting out fires.
You give credit to them, yeah?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, they do everything right. Like I said, they aren't going to make mistakes. And then one of the few mistakes that we made, they did capitalize on. We had a misplayed ball, and I think the next pitch was hit for a 2-run home run. We could have been out of the inning. But like I said, that's the way baseball is. Not always going to go your way.
That's true. And, the 11 o'clock start, that's pretty early to be playing baseball to get kids mentally into the flow of things.
Yeah. As I thought about it all weekend, which I did, thought about it all weekend, is you wonder if the outcome had been different. If we had, for example, played the series on Wednesday when a lot of people did, or if we had started it at a normal start time for a Friday, and maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't, I don't know. Briarwood had to play at the same time, so they didn't have a problem being ready to play. But I thought about that. I think we're a better night team than we are a day team, so I think it could have affected it.
6-0 first game, 2-1 in the second game. Silicaca swept in that doubleheader by Briarwood, who will be in Montgomery this week for the state finals. And very disappointing, emotional scene after game 2.
It's a hard feeling to describe. For a guy that's been playing baseball since he was 3, 4, 5 years old, when it all of a sudden is taken from you. And this is speaking from experience, those first days that you're no longer a part of a team anymore, it's almost like a death in the family, where it's something you've had your whole life that now all of a sudden you don't. And when you don't know when your last game is, when that last out happens, it is very shocking. And that's a lot of times when that emotion of that sort of takes over.
And it wasn't for a lack of confidence. This is a confident group.
Yeah, oh yeah, they were. I think that confidence won them some games. They didn't think they could ever lose. And even in the back of your mind, as they had proved to us, the weekend before in the Bibb County series, especially in that game too, when we scored the run there, I guess about the 5th inning, 6th inning, I think everybody, myself included, in the back of your mind is thinking, hey, we'll figure a way to scratch out another couple of runs and survive and get to game 3. I think everybody thought that. And then when it didn't happen, again, the expectations were a lot different than the results.
And it doesn't take away from a great season, however.
Not at all. That's what I tried to stress to them. While they're disappointed, and they had very high expectations for themselves, they met our expectations. They had some big wins along the way. They've done things that it's been several years since the Sylacauga team has done. That class has won, every step along the way, and to be one of the last 4, most times that's not something to be disappointed in. But that group had their sights set higher. But you're right, it does not take away the season they had.
Yeah, and you're losing more than a handful of seniors off this club.
Yeah, we lose 8 seniors, and all had significant playing time throughout the year. We lose arguably our best pitcher, arguably our best hitter, arguably our best defensive player, and losing the entire starting outfield and losing both left side of the defense on the infield. So there's a lot of shoes to fill, which also creates a lot of opportunities for those that are still in the program.
You've been deep in the playoffs this year, semifinals in 5A. You are losing 8 seniors, a very disappointing doubleheader loss, still fresh on your mind. How do you keep that from affecting moving forward, as you don't like to use the rebuild word, but there's a lot of that in play here.
There is. The small break from the time that your season ends to the time that you can start practicing in June, for about a week, I just sort of unplug, where you really don't want to think of that. You still, it's when we start in June, it's going to be very sloppy, and it is every June because the guys that have been trained to do everything the way you want it done, well, they're gone. Yeah. So now you're having to teach, and I try to tell myself all the time that there's a big difference between practice in June and practice in May. In May, they've got it. Well, now, see, we're still fresh off of that. So when we start, it's not going to look nearly as good as it did in May. But that, we'll reflect when it's time to reflect. But the expectation, all they did was keep the bar at a high, at a high place. So regardless of who's in the program or who's having to leave the program, or whether we're down or whether we've got a good class coming up or whatever, the expectations to do at least what they did this year is still going to be there.
Well, certainly the Sylacauga sports program, the student athletes have had a solid season. As we look back, the crowd support especially in the playoffs, but not just in the playoffs, but especially in the playoffs, was phenomenal. And they almost energized this team to another step forward. You can't say enough about the followers of Aggie baseball.
No, they showed it last year. When I my first year here, that was one of the things that was a pleasant surprise for me. And and this year was even more. They were, there's games when it's cold, or games when it's wet, or whatever the circumstance is, they were there. They were there every night. And I'll tell you, a big difference here than some other places is everywhere their parents and girlfriends are going to show up. But people that have been away from the program for a long time and away from the school for a long time filled the place up, and the students filled the place up. And they're not just the casual fans. Those are the ones that, like you said, that do energize the team.
They're studious. They know the baseball.
They do, and they make tons of noise. I'm telling you, those last two series against Bibb County, against Briarwood, was loud. I don't know if it's just because of the sheer volume of people or how exciting the games were, or a combination of both. But I know it was loud, and I know our kids heard them.
Yeah. Finally this morning, a moment with Coach Jeff Bell, the head baseball coach at the Semifinal Aggies, coming off a wonderful season. How do you say goodbye to these seniors?
That's hard. Because I've grown pretty attached to them in just 2 seasons. I think that's a good question. I really don't want to. I have the same conversation with every senior class, that if they can survive me through their senior year, they enter into a pretty special club that basically grants them a free phone call for anything they need. It could be for advice or a job reference or whatever it is, that they've sort of earned a place with me that quite frankly, not everybody gets. So I don't know the best way to send them off. I think probably the best way is to not send them off and try to keep them around the program and showing our younger guys the way that it's supposed to be.
Family's always family.
Yes, absolutely.
And last but not least, your support staff was fantastic this year.
Yeah, they've been really good. I talk about Coach Carter on here all the time about what a good job he does. He's sort of being groomed for bigger and better things. And I think that's just a matter of time. And then, Coach Strickland, Coach Harris, Coach Richardson, Nate, all those familiar faces that you see around the field, they all have their roles and responsibilities, and they all should take a lot of credit for some of the success that we've had this year.
All right, fantastic. Coach Jeff Bell, let's do it again next year for the Aggies.
Yes, sir, we'll do.
More Daybreak right after this.